we're gonna do I guess it's kind of a cage match. I've already seen it, and I already know I'm gonna win. So it's kind of a weak cage match on my part, but it's a pretty
All right.
simple
Well, I
example.
haven't seen it, so.
But Lacey will do her match. She'll see if she can guess what's gonna happen. So this is George Skippy Camel.
My crystal ball.
Yeah, you got your crystal ball. Can you see it?
Yep.
Madam Zelda.
I got a crystal for that.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is George Skippy Camel and Rachel Where Are We Cruise on the Dave Ramsey Show. And they're going to talk about, what's the name of this? Don't Be an Idiot. The two people that I really trust to tell me about being an idiot. Here they are.
Why is your car payment $1,300?
Because first of all, this vehicle was $62,000. I did it for 60 months instead of 72, and I went $0 down. I just didn't want to put any money down because it doesn't make any sense to me.
How much money do you save if you put more money down?
So basically, every $1,000 that you put down is about $20. So it would take $5,000 for me to lower my monthly payment by $100. So in $1,300 versus $1,200,
yeah,
same thing.
Yeah, it would take you, what is that, 60 months to get your money back, or 50 months?
Oh yeah, to get $5,000
$5,000
back.
Oh,
it'd take way too long.
Wow.
Wow. Wow, Lacey. Look, let me do their face. You're already doing Rachel's face. Wow. First off, he's right. The guy is not... No. He's not being rational. In fact, if you pay the $5,000 down, he'd save a lot more in interest on the back end. So he'd have saved money. He's looking at more in the immediate expenditure, right? Do I want to put the $5,000 down now, or do I want to keep it? So yeah, I mean, he's mathematically, yeah, he would have saved more if he'd put the money down, right? But you could also say if he invested the $5,000, he'd have made more on the back end anyway. So it could have gone either way. But either way, it's like $1,300 for a car payment is a lot.
That is a lot.
But
I mean,
but let's face it.
To be honest, I got a little hung up on how high of a car payment this person got themselves. To be totally honest with you, I was like, wow.
Well, but he bought a $62,000 SUV, right? I do not think this guy is struggling for cash. I think he's probably doing okay, and he doesn't really care. That's my gathering from this guy. I don't think that this guy bought a car he couldn't afford. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I could be wrong. But let's watch them try to figure it out. They're having a hard time. Wow.
Rachel, some people's cornbread just ain't done in the middle. You know, they just didn't fully bake in the oven. So let me recap what this guy just said. He bought a vehicle that was $62,000 MSRP with $0 down, $1,300 a month for 60 months, which, if you're doing the math at home, is $78,000 for a vehicle that was worth $62,000
before he drove it off the lot, and that it's appreciated already.
And so his logic, though, has nothing to do with the interest paid. He's going, why would I put more down? It's only going to lower the payment by $100. What's the difference between $1,200 and $1,300? And this is why we're broke. It's not. We can't keep blaming inflation and eggs. At some point, we have to look in the mirror and go, stop being an idiot. Stop buying $62,000 cars and paying $78,000 for them while making $50,000 and then going,
well, that's where the problem is. Right there. I already jumped to the assumption the guy's only
Wait, did he say how much he made? I didn't think he did he?
No. He didn't. But Skippy's assuming he only makes $50,000. It's like, no, I mean, It looks. Did you see the guy? This is not a guy. This is the kind of guy like that golfs every weekend. This is the kind of guy who, you know, has a racquetball team. This is not the kind of guy. I'm sure this guy's making well over six figures and he doesn't give a shit. I mean,
Well, let's also be honest, though, that without knowing how much money he makes, we don't know
no.
what kind of decision this actually really was. If he did make 50,000, I would put this into the stupid column real fast. I don't know that I'd be inclined to want to spend that kind of money on a car, even if I made a lot of money. But we don't know if he made a really stupid choice or if it was totally fine, because we have no idea how much this guy makes.
I can tell you right
kinda,
now. I can tell you right now. The guy's wearing an Air Jordan shirt that's vintage. Those are at least $100 for a T-shirt. I'm sure his hat cost $50 or $60. I'm sure his sneakers cost a couple $100. This is not a guy who's. I don't think he's broke at all. I don't think he's making 50,000 a year. I think he's probably doing okay. Either way, he doesn't really seem to be bothered by it. He doesn't seem to care. But here's the thing. So he's right. Yeah, you're going to end up paying $62,000 for the car plus the extra $16,000 in interest payments over the life of this. So yeah, he's paying $16,000 in interest. I'm sure this guy doesn't think about it because he's probably going to flip the car and trade it in for a new car and a new payment in a few years anyway. The other thing Skippy doesn't do because he can't do math is he can't figure out that the thing that shocks me the most is if you actually run this, the interest rate the guy is paying on this loan, if it's a 6-year loan, is 9.4%. So if this guy came into my office and was talking about this, I'd be sitting there going, why are you paying such a high interest rate on a car loan?
Yeah, that is really high.
We need to talk about that because we could probably, if there's some situation with his credit or something, let's talk about getting that down and refinancing. I could probably save you the $100 a month, in a year or so if we just did a couple things. So I just think that, once again, they're looking to, once again, it's personal responsibility, blame the individual. They're not actually looking at the problem and how to solve it. They never ever do that. Am I off on that, or you there?
Nope.
No. Okay. You froze there for a second.
Am I back?
I can hear you. Let's get back into this. Hopefully it'll correct itself in a second here.
Wish Biden would really fix it, and the taxes and the egg prices are out of control, Rachel. I'm going full King of the Hill at this point.
Oh, I love it, George. Well, for me, car loans, car payments, it's my worst type of debt. If we had a rate debt, for me, it's the most annoying. Student loans, you get a degree, it's stupid. That's probably second.
Sure.
Credit cards.
Wait. No, I just like that Rachel's whole thing. So, car loans, she hates car loans, right? Number one. Then student loans, because, you get a degree, but it's stupid.
How does she hate student loans more than credit card debt?
I know.
Well, I think seems a little pointless given their stances. They don't like any debt, which is fine. But given that's their stance, ranking which one she dislikes the most seems silly to me. But whatever.
Yeah, but she ranked them by cheapest to most expensive. She hates cheap debt, but not as much as she hates expensive debt. Or she hates expensive debt, but not as much as she hates cheap debt. So car loans are usually pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Student loans are pretty cheap. Credit cards are freaking expensive, but those are third.
Right.
Once again, I think the acorn didn't fall far from the tree on this one.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man. No, I know why you love her so much. She's not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
Whatever. So if we rate the debt, car loans for me, it's the dumbest
And it's
debt
the
that
one
you
we
can be in.
justify the most.
It's but mathematically speaking, when
It
you
is the
just
dumbest.
look at your finances, it's the dumbest thing that you can do with your money. It really is, because you're
Okay, this is what's really stupid about that. 90% of Americans own cars. Most people have to have a car to work, survive, take their kids to school. It's a necessary debt for a lot of people. You can't function without it. So this idea that, a car loan is just so stupid. It's like, well, some people, if you don't have any money and you got a job and you need a car, you don't fucking have a choice.
Right?
And out of the three of
And
them,
some people, well, they'll say they'll basically tell people to get some sort of like a junker car, and I don't have any issue with that in particular, but some people really value having a car that's more reliable,
Mhm.
and they don't want to have to be paying repair bills on a regular basis with those vehicles, or they do not have the skills to be able to fix a vehicle if it breaks down. So they just don't want to fool with all of that stuff, and they're allowed to have that priority.
well, and sometimes you have a job where you have to have a nicer car because you can't be showing up in a piece of shit. It's just reality. Mm-hmm. So it's out of the three she mentioned, the only one that potentially is a necessary debt is a car loan. You're not forced to go to college. That's an option. I mean, unless you had my parents, and then it wasn't an option. But, but credit card debt, yeah, that's a lot of that's just not always forced. Sometimes you're forced to have credit card debt if you're broke, but the one that you're really forced to have is a car because most of the jobs I've ever had required a car. You had to be able to get to and from work. You had to be able to go meet clients. You had to be able to go whatever. I mean, I was a cop. I mean, you have to travel. Sometimes you have to drive. I mean, so this is just ridiculous. I mean, so anyway, but remember, this title of this video is "Don't Be an Idiot." Just want to
Oh boy.
stick a flag in that.
borrowing money, paying interest on something that's going down in value. It's not an asset. And it's for what?
Work.
To look
To
good.
say that, I'm being serious. Like, I'm like, this is unbelievable. Like, it's one thing when we talk to people and they're in credit card debt because they're behind on their bills and they're trying to live, you know what I mean? Like, and you're kind of talking through this needs versus wants. And, we get those calls, all the time, but I'm like, but a car payment, it's literally for $62,000 to look a certain way and feel a certain way. It's an ego thing. The book, The Psychology of Money. Have you read it?
Oh,
I'll agree with that in this sense. And for this guy, yeah, it probably is. He probably bought it because it makes him feel good. I don't know why that's a problem. Go ahead.
Well, you know what? I said that's probably true, and he has to make a choice about whether that's worth these payments and that situation to him. And obviously, he did make that choice. So,
And if he can afford it, who cares? I mean, they're circling around solving the great mystery of who fucking cares that this guy bought a $62,000 car. Do we care? But no, for them it's mostly about they want to rag on you're poor, you shouldn't be buying stuff. That's it. That's the whole gig.
Oh no, Delaney told me to read
so
it.
good. It's
I've heard
so
great
good.
things.
But I loved what he said in there. He said, really, the reason people don't save, like, it's your ego. And so if this guy's ego was out of the way and drove a great Honda Civic and didn't have that car payment.
By the way, I didn't read this book, but it's pretty much laughed at. It's not. It has nothing to do with behavioral finance. It's really pathetic. Anyway, go ahead.
He would be able to save that $1,300 a month,
but instead
and invest it. But it's going into not an asset. It's again because it goes down in value. It's
that
not even like a house.
$62,000 car is now worth $50,000 and then $40,000 next year.
I mean, it's just, and again, it's for a car to get to point A to point B. And I'm not mad at cars. We like cars.
Sure.
So it's not that, but it's the way our mindsets around it and financially how it plays out. It just becomes such a huge burden on families, and it's not wise.
What's
so that
shocking
poor
to me,
guy, come on, dude.
Like, we have such a culture of debt that we're so obsessed with debt that the logic doesn't go to, hey, how much am I paying in interest? Instead, it goes, well, my payments actually, it's $100 more, but what's the point of putting more money down? Just save $100 on my payment.
Right.
We're still thinking in such a stupid lens of what's the payment? Can I afford the payment?
You're not even looking at the entire mathematical.
Well, and I would disagree. It's not a culture of debt. It's more of most people just don't understand how this shit works. Would you disagree with me on that, or am I off?
Don't understand how what part works. Clarify.
Any of it. Most people don't even understand how a basic loan works.
That's true. That's true.
I don't think it's like there's a culture of we have to have all this debt. I think a lot of it's just people don't understand it, and then they get caught up in it. I got to tell you, I've probably 400 or 500 people I've helped get out of credit debt in the last 10 years, right? And I used to do these for like $150. If you brought me your credit debt, I would develop a plan for you to get out of it as quick as possible. And I would develop and I'd give them 3 or 4 options and show them how they work. Right?
Right.
And I would say most of those people that I, at least that I know of, that contacted me got out of the debt, followed the plan. Sometimes it took them a little bit longer. Sometimes they were able to do it quicker. But a lot of it was just, I didn't realize I was paying that much.
Right.
Right. And so once they got to that point, they were like, oh, well, now when I go to the store and use my credit card, I sit there and go, well, wait a second. How much is this pair of shoes actually going to cost me? Yeah,
right.
they were.
People have become a little more aware then.
Right. These pumps they're $60 on sale, and I really like the pumps, but if I pay with my credit card and I don't pay off my credit card at the end of the month, now all of a sudden these pumps might end up costing me $200 or $300 over the next 2 years. Now they start to, well, shit, then I'm not really getting a deal. So,
right.
But when they think about it that way, I mean, I'll give you a great example. When I went to the police academy, one of the big courses, police officer survival training and weapons retention was a big thing, right? And they tell you all these horror stories about cops that lost their guns and suspects stole their guns and used their guns on other people. And a weapons retention, making sure that you don't lose your gun was a big part of that, right? And so once I finally became a police officer on patrol, man, I could tell you the whole time I was paranoid about losing my gun or somebody taking my gun. Or any weapon off my tool belt at that point. Because then you're sitting there thinking, oh shit, if I lose it, somebody could take it. But most of these idiots who carry guns, they don't think about that because nobody trained them to think that way. Nobody trained them about the danger. Right? Because the reality is, and this is true, when you're carrying a gun, and they would tell you this at the police academy, every time you're carrying a gun, any fight you get into is a gunfight because you have a gun on you. You've already escalated everything just by walking into the room. So you have to be aware of that fact. But if you're not trained to think that way, then you're thinking, oh, well, I'm just carrying a gun and it's cool. Right? And that's how people get hurt.
That's a dangerous way of thinking. That's not a good mindset.
No, because you're not thinking about the risk. You're only thinking about, but that's the point is like, okay, so let's think about what the risk is here. For this guy, it might not be any risk. He might be making enough money. He wants the car. Cool. If it's somebody who can't afford it, then it's a bigger risk. Right? On the other side of the coin, he's right. Most people don't think about, I'm taking the debt. What's the actual cost of taking the debt? But it's not because they're obsessed with debt or they want debt. It's because they don't know how to think about it. Because if you'd have just said to this guy, hey, you're in interest payments, you're going to pay $78,000 for the $62,000 car, he might step back and go, well, wait a second. So I'm going to pay an extra $16,000 for this fucking car?
Right. He might still opt to do it, but he might also go, Now, I was willing to pay 62 for this car, but I'm definitely not willing to pay 78 or whatever.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah, but it's not that he's got some obsession with debt or his ego or anything necessarily. It's probably just he doesn't understand. You know.
well, most people aren't stopping and doing that sort of math beforehand on their purchases.
Well, because
you know?
nobody really explains it to him.
Right. Right.
It'd be nice if they'd sit there and explain. Well, look, dude, understand what you're getting into. You know.
Right.
All right, but let's get into this because I'm going to go to. So this is the whole point of this. So with these videos, when you watch guys like this, and Skippy's going to do this, they're going to bring up an article that they read that supports whatever they're saying. Anytime somebody does that, you should go look up the article. And that's what we're going to do in this next little bit here. Because Skippy's going to bring up an article that he didn't read to support his position. And it's going to be great. On a video titled, "Don't Be an Idiot," the guy is going to quote an article he didn't read all the way through.
Oh, brother. All right, Duncan, we're not watching this entire video, though, are we?
No, we're just going to get to that and go out and be out.
Math equation for getting interest and all of it.
And,
Yeah.
well, here's where that short-term thinking leads us, Rachel.
There you go.
Okay,
This
tell me.
CBS News article: millions of Americans nearing retirement age with no savings. So here's a real sad story of a woman who's juggling 2 jobs. She's 66 years old,
Oh,
sometimes working up to 11 hours a day, wishing to be retired, playing piano, enjoying her life, but she has no savings or 401k, not even enough to cover an emergency. She sold her home and bought a smaller one with 2 other women at 66.
yeah.
This is really sad. And here's the stats. The U.S. Census Bureau data shows that 50% of women and 47% of men between 55 and 66 years old have no retirement savings. Half. Zilch.
That's pretty wild. That if you were to quiz me, if we did a pop quiz, I wouldn't think it was
Never
that
guess
high.
that.
I didn't think it was that high.
Oh.
Man.
And she said, I have a live for now philosophy, I guess. You think? I mean, it's shocking to me that people wake up at 66 and go, I should probably do something about that retirement thing, huh? Instead of using time while we have it on this, our precious time on Earth,
Right.
to retire with dignity and have a great.
All right, so here's his synopsis of this CBS article, and it's actually not an article; it was a news report, and this was the summary of the on-air news report that he read. So his synopsis is okay. So there's this millions of Americans are not saving or don't have any savings for retirement, and of course he uses this this woman as an example, right? And the interesting thing to me about that is this woman, Marianne O'Connor, and we'll look at this real quick, doesn't have any savings for retirement. Now, his synopsis is, well, the problem is these people just spend too much. They don't think about saving for retirement. They blow it off, right? And that's why 40% of whatever it is, women, and 40-something% of men don't have any retirement savings. Because they blow it off. They don't think about it. Right? Is that the reason why so many people don't have retirement savings? I don't know. Let me see. Let's pull this over. Let's see. So here's the article. So she's got the whole thing. Yeah, I have a live for now philosophy. Now he does take that out of context because she's talking about right now she doesn't have any money, so she's working and doing other stuff, right? But the next paragraph, right after that, this is where he stops. The next paragraph in this synopsis. For her and others without a nest egg, experts said it's not too late to make a plan. According to the AARP, that includes continuing to work, lowering your cost of living, saving when you can, delaying Social Security benefits, et cetera, et cetera. Stuff we talked about. Changing your expectations, making more money, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. According to the AARP, nearly 57 million Americans work for an employer that does not offer a retirement savings plan. Doesn't that seem like the bigger problem?
And again, it's a systemic problem.
So this woman,
systemic.
yeah. So this,
We go back to the problem where they're blaming the individual for a problem that is systemic. Now, what I will say is, let's state the obvious. This woman could have opened an IRA of some sort and been contributing to that.
but that's
Okay.
still would not.
In all fairness, we will say that that's an option.
Sure, but that's still, even if she maxed out, it still wouldn't compete with what a 401k could earn her. An IRA would
Right.
be next to nothing compared.
Especially with most 401k opportunities people have through work come with some sort of match. So, you know, a little bit more bonus money sort of being thrown on top of it when you put money in. So even though she'd have an IRA as an option, still it's a systemic problem that she and so many other people don't have access to this through their workplace.
Right.
The pensions have been taken away and people still don't necessarily have options for 401ks. And that's not a good thing.
Well, right. And the thing about it, though, is he gets right to the point in the argument, or in the article, at least not the article, it was just a synopsis. He gets right to the point where it proves whatever point he wants to make, and then he cuts off the last part that actually says, no, the problem is these people don't have retirement savings through their work. And the idea that she would know how to get an IRA, what if she was a waitress her whole life? Who would have told her that? Where would she have learned that?
Right.
You know, that's a ridiculous thing. And so I'm going to do one more thing real quick. So I followed down the ARP a little bit, and I went to this Forbes article where they talk about this. And America does not have enough retirement savings, really. I mean, and that's a big deal, right? 48% of older households have no retirement savings. Okay. Now, they're not considering defined benefit plans, just defined contributions. But very few people have both. 29% have neither a defined benefit nor a defined contribution. So I wanted to get into that just real quick.
Wait, Duncan, pause. For the viewers, tell us what is the difference between defined benefit versus defined contribution, just quickly.
All right, so there's a difference between a defined contribution and a defined benefit for your retirement plan. So defined contribution plan would be things like an IRA, a 401k, 403b, 457, etc. They can be traditional or Roth. Now, the difference between that is in a traditional account, you don't pay the taxes up front. You pay the taxes when you pull the money out later on. As for a Roth account, you pay the tax up front, and then you don't pay any tax when you pull the money out later on. Those are the differences. So when you retire with a defined contribution plan, that lump sum of money that you have in the plan is your money. You can do whatever you want with it. You can take out as much as you want, whenever you want. You just have to pay tax on whatever you owe tax on. So you kind of get to define how much you put in, right? But how much you take out is undefined. A defined benefit plan, usually referred to as a pension plan. Social Security also qualifies as one of these. They're almost always traditional. You can't take a Roth option. So you're paying taxes when you pull the money out. You don't really get to decide most of the time how much you put in. It's fixed. You're required to put in X amount every month. Usually, like, your employer will have one, and X amount of your paycheck goes into the pension every month. Does that make sense, Lacey? Am I going too fast here?
Absolutely. No, I think you're doing a great job of breaking it down and explaining it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so your money goes in every month, and then when you retire, that lump sum amount isn't yours. It's the pension's. But what the pension does is it'll guarantee you a payment every month, usually based on that lump sum for the rest of your life. And you can get other options like your life plus 10 years, or your life and your spouse's life, and that'll change the amount based on the actuarial table that they're calculating it on. But you don't get to choose what to put in, but it is defined what you get every month, and you get it for the rest of your life, so it's secure. So the thing that's changed a lot since the 70s, right, and this is kind of a fun fact, is in the 70s, almost everybody had a defined benefit plan. So you worked, and every month your money went in there through your boss, through your pension, through the city, through the state. I used to be a cop. I had a pension. Lacey's a teacher. She has a pension. So we know how these work. But the nice thing about them is they're guaranteed till you die. the negative is if you start collecting pension and then you die really quick, you didn't really get the benefit of the pension. But that's what it is.
Also true.
But if you have...
This is where one of the benefits comes in that you mentioned, Duncan, where pensions will often let people elect to take a slightly lesser amount in order to have their partner receive their pension after their passing. So there are options like that. You're not around to enjoy it. However, it's nice to know that it could take care of somebody that you need it to take care of.
Right. Well, just real quick, sort of history lesson. The benefit of the defined benefit is you never worry about running out of money. It's guaranteed to pay you until you die. So if you live to 140 for some reason, that thing is still paying you every month what you're guaranteed to be paid. So you never run out of money with a pension. That's the bonus to it. The negative is if you die early, you lost all your money that you put in. Okay? And a defined contribution, if you die early, well, that money just goes to whoever, right? In a inherited account, right? But if you, the negative is that if you live too long or you live past what your amount is, you can run out of money, which is what happens to a lot of people, right?
A lot of people run into the situation where they don't have enough money and they're watching it run out before their eyes.
Right. So in the old days of retirement planning, right, for financial planners, you used to have the three legs of the stool, right? Social Security, your pension, and whatever your savings or defined contribution stuff was, right? Your IRA, 401k, et cetera, right? The 401k was actually started by Kodak, the company, and they lobbied for it in Washington. And 401k is just the tax code it's under. But the reason they did it was for wealthy executives to be able to have tax deductible money so they could hide money from the IRS. And what happened was when they passed it, they made them give it to all their employees, right? And all these companies started doing it, and they realized, hey, the 401k, we don't even have to monitor it. We can just pay a firm to do it, and it's way cheaper than a pension. And so all these companies got rid of their pensions. So now it's only the two legs of the stool, your Social Security and whatever you have saved.
And you know what happens when you go and you sit on a stool with two legs?
Yeah, it falls over. Unless you have really good balance.
Yes. And most people don't have really good balance.
Right. So anyway.
You make connections you want to make with people.
So anyway, just to sum up, it's the whole video is stupid. So it's a guy talking about he bought a $62,000 car. They turned it into he overspent on the car. We don't know that. We don't know how much the guy makes. He doesn't seem bothered by the price of the car, right? But they had to make it into like a personal fault of his because they have to have something to bitch about. The one thing is he didn't understand interest. And then, of course, they turn it into, well, see, people aren't even saving for retirement. When the answer to that question is, well, that's because a lot of them don't have the option. They're not given the option by their employers. And you can say, yeah, they could save on their own or save in an IRA, but what you're not getting is, would you get a 401k? Is your employer's not matching your contribution. So it's a lot harder. Plus, IRAs have caps to them. You can only put I can only put $6,000 in an IRA this year. And if you're making over a certain amount, you can't put money into an IRA. So, I mean, it's just, it's one of these things where they are almost dependent on their employer to provide these things. Otherwise, they're not going to have savings for retirement. So, once again, they half read an article or they saw a clip and half read an article and just sort of fudged their way through it and got it all wrong. So, anyway, fun stuff for that. So anyway, we're going to wrap up. Lacey, where can everybody catch you?
All right. So if you're looking for articles that I've written or information about my coaching program or workshops that I do, you can find them at mysenseofsense.com. If you want to